Good evening, you're watching the news. I'm Nidhi Razdan and these are the headlines tonight. The Supreme Court will review its controversial money laundering law verdict. The Chief Justice cites two specific problematic parts of the PMLA order. That's a review of the burden of proof and the fact that the accused couldn't even get the case report. So people didn't even know why they were being arrested by the ED. The Supreme Court also issues notices in the Bilkis Bano case. A notice has gone to the Gujarat government, the centre and the 11 convicts who were released. This is based on pleas that are challenging the release of the accused. In the Pegasus case, the court says malware was found on the phones that they examined, but no conclusive proof that it was Pegasus. The top court also says that a committee that it had set up to look at the issue says the government of India did not cooperate in the probe. Rahul Gandhi says this proves the government wants to crush democracy. Is it endgame for Jharkhand's Chief Minister Hemant Soren? He could face disqualification. The BJP has demanded early elections in the state. Hemant Soren, however, says it seems the BJP has drafted the Election Commission's report. All Delhi PMLAs are accounted for. Operation Lotus has failed in Delhi, says Arvind Kejriwal. But it's all a distraction from the liquor scam, says the BJP. BJP MLA Raja Singh is arrested again. He's now booked under the tough Preventive Detention Law. He had got bail just yesterday after being arrested for a hate speech. Was BJP leader and actor Sonali Phogat murdered? The post-mortem shows multiple blunt force injuries on her body. The Goa police have now registered a murder case and called in two of her associates for questioning. And INS Vikrant, India's largest ever warship, will be commissioned on the 2nd of September. We bring you an exclusive report. Well, in a significant development, the Supreme Court has agreed to review its controversial judgment on the Draconian Prevention of Money Laundering Act, or the PMLA, specifically citing two problematic aspects of the law that need review. These are the reverse burden of proof, where essentially an accused is assumed guilty until proven innocent, and that the ED is not required to give a copy of the case report to the accused, which essentially means that if you're arrested by the Enforcement Directorate, you won't even be given the reasons why. The Supreme Court issued a notice to the centre today on the plea that was filed by Congress MP Karti Chidambaram, seeking a review of the July ruling by a bench that was led by Justice Khanwilkar, who then retired. My colleague Arvind Gunasekar joining us for more on that big story. So Arvind, what happens from here?
Yeah, Nidhi, after admitting the review petition that was filed by Congress MP Karti Chidambaram seeking a review or reconsideration of the PMLA judgment that was given by Justice Khanwilkar-led bench on July 27, today the Supreme Court has issued notice to centre government on the review plea that has sought for review of the July 27 judgment. The Supreme Court said that prima facie they have found that two aspects need to be reviewed or reconsidered in this entire judgment. One pertains to not providing the copy of ECAR. ECAR all this while has been an internal or confidential report of the Enforcement Directorate, though it's called as equivalent to FIR, but that has not been given to the accused, so the accused does not even know whether the Enforcement Directorate even investigating him or her for what reason. That's something that the Supreme Court said that needs to be reconsidered. The second very important point is the reverse burden of proof. Though all other agencies, all other police agencies, the agencies have to prove the person accused as guilt or not, something that was the burden was on the agencies, but only in the PMLA case, the Enforcement Directorate investigation, the burden was on the accused, whereas the accused has to prove his innocence in order to get a bail. And that's where Supreme Court said that even this particular aspect that was upheld by the earlier judgment also needs to be reconsidered, and that's why Supreme Court said that prima facie they have found these two issues need to be reconsidered. They have issued notice to centre, but the petitioner side has said not just these two issues, several other issues of the judgment should also be reconsidered, but the Supreme Court said that whatever issue you can give it to the bench, but Supreme Court has issued notice to the centre and they have posted this matter for a new bench to hear this matter in further course.
Right, Arvind, so significant there, and in fact many of the problems that the PMLA has or has been criticized for do stem from these two particular aspects of it. Thanks very much for joining us. Meanwhile, the top court has also stepped in the Bilkis Bano case, which has outraged the country. Notices were issued by the Supreme Court today to the centre, the Gujarat government and the 11 convicts who were released earlier this month. The 11 men had been serving a life sentence for the gang rape of Bilkis in 2002. during the Gujarat riots, and they had also been convicted of killing 7 of her family members. The Supreme Court has said the case will now be heard in 2 weeks. And there was another big case before the top court today. That was the Pegasus spying case, where the Supreme Court said that 29 phones were examined. Malware was found on 5 of them, but that there is no conclusive proof that it was Pegasus spyware. The bench led by the Chief Justice also said that the committee that they had set up to probe this issue had informed the court that the government did not cooperate in their probe. The court is scrutinizing a report submitted by a technical committee that they had set up on the alleged use of Pegasus spyware to snoop on the phones of politicians, activists and journalists. The matter has been adjourned for 4 weeks. Rahul Gandhi hit out at the government this evening, saying that the fact that they did not cooperate in the probe shows that they have something to hide and want to crush democracy, while the BJP says it needs no sermons from the Congress about snooping.
इनके मित्र, इनके सहयोगी पिटिशनर बनते हैं और उसके बाद चाहे वो राफेल हो, चाहे वो सेंट्रल विस्टा हो, चाहे आज का पेगासस हो, हर को सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने रिजेक्ट किया और बाकी कोर्ट ने रिजेक्ट किया। आज हमें एक बात और कहनी है और ये बात हम बहुत विनम्रता से कह रहे हैं, कांग्रेस पार्टी स्पाइंग पर हमें नसीहत न दे। आज मुझे पीड़ा से बोलना पड़ रहा है, जब देश के योग्य राष्ट्रपति स्वर्गीय प्रणब बाबू देश के वित्त मंत्री थे तो उनके दफ्तर पर किसने बगिंग की थी? याद है कांग्रेस पार्टी? उसको च्युइंगम गेट कहा जाता था।
And the other big political story today, Jharkhand's Chief Minister Hemant Soren could be in trouble and face disqualification as an MLA. The Election Commission has written to the Jharkhand governor a sealed report where it was asked to look at whether Mr. Soren violated election laws by giving himself a mining lease. Mr. Soren says he hasn't got any communication on this yet and accused the BJP of drafting the report. The BJP in turn is demanding a midterm election in Jharkhand. Well, here to talk about all of that, we have my colleague Akhilesh Sharma here in the studio with us and my colleague Alok Pandey joining us from Ranchi. Alok, just over to you first. What happens next? When are we actually going to formally know what the contents of the Election Commission's opinion are?
Well, I think we were expecting that the governor would make it public or take some sort of action based on that report. But as of now, that hasn't happened. So one waits to see what happens. But there has already been a lot of politics, as you were pointing out, with the JMM also coming out, including Hemant Soren, the chief minister, and basically saying that, look, how is it that, the report is in a sealed cover, and yet there are many who are suggesting that I am already disqualified. How is that happening? And they are also, he put out a tweet which basically suggested or said that, look, you can buy constitutional bodies, but how will you buy public support? And his spokespersons through the day kept on saying that we have the support of the people. I think the question that will be asked over the next 2 or 3 days is whether Mr. Soren and the JMM and the coalition in Jharkhand have the number of MLAs required to keep the government in place if that disqualification or does actually happen, but that's a big if right now. But there are those who are suggesting that the BJP will move in for the kill if Mr. Soren is removed as the chief minister or has to remove himself as the chief minister. So that's the sentiment by and large here. That's the sentiment in Ranchi. And also just very briefly to also tell you that this case,
Sorry, I just want to ask Akhilesh about, what the BJP could possibly be looking at, because Akhilesh, there have been rumors about a change of government in Jharkhand for some months now. So is the BJP now closely watching how things develop with Mr. Soren? Would they move in for the kill here, as Alok put it?
Well, we have to wait and see, because the governor has so far not decided anything. He has just gone back to Ranchi from Delhi, and we have been told by the sources that he has been taking legal opinions about how to proceed with the Election Commission order. But constitutional experts say that in this matter related to our RP Act, the governor does not have much choice. He has to go by what the EC says. But there is no time limit for him to take a decision, and in some cases the governor has said indefinitely on such recommendations or orders of the Election Commission. So obviously that means that the BJP will, through the governor, choose its own time before the governor makes a decision public that Mr. Hemant Soren is disqualified from the membership of the assembly. As far as the forming the alternative government in Jharkhand is concerned, we have seen, Nidhi, that during the presidential elections, more than 8 to 9 MLAs of the Congress party, they cross-voted in favor of Draupadi Murmu. She was the NDA candidate, and that also shows that how the Congress MLAs in Jharkhand are vulnerable for poaching.
Right.
And we have seen that in West Bengal, 3 Congress MLAs were caught. They were arrested with large amount of cash in their car, and they were of course suspended by the Congress party. But as far as the numbers are concerned, they are firmly with the JMM Congress alliance. So a lot of things have to happen in Jharkhand in the next 24 to 48 hours.
All right, never a dull moment in Indian politics. Alok, Akhilesh, thanks very much for joining us. And sticking with the theme of never a dull moment, today Arvind Kejriwal had called an emergency meeting of AAP MLAs in Delhi after the AAP had claimed that it wasn't able to get in touch with as many as 12 of its 62 MLAs in Delhi. Well, thankfully for them, everyone was accounted for today. 53 of the MLAs were physically present at the meeting. The rest phoned in, and then there were those like Satyendra Jain who are in jail. So now the AAP is saying that the BJP's plan to do an Operation Lotus in Delhi completely failed. The BJP says all of this is bakwas, that this was all a distraction by the AAP because of the liquor policy scam.
A failed Operation Lotus in Delhi, claims the Aam Aadmi Party after a meeting called amid concerns of alleged poaching attempts by the BJP. 53 of the Aam Aadmi Party's 62 Delhi MLAs attended the meeting in person, while the rest were either dialed in, were out of Delhi or in jail like Satyendra Jain.
मुझे बेहद खुशी है कि हमारा एक भी एमएलए अभी तक नहीं टूटा है, पर मैं दिल्ली की जनता को कहना चाहता हूं कि आपने एक कट्टर ईमानदार पार्टी को वोट दिया है, कट्टर ईमानदार सरकार को वोट दिया है। मैं मेरे एमएलए, मेरे मंत्री, हम कट जाएंगे, देश के साथ दगा नहीं करेंगे।
We were getting news that BJP people are approaching our MLAs and they are trying to topple our government. 12 have basically confirmed to the leadership that they have been approached by BJP. So I think to reassure ourselves and to reassure the people of Delhi, we wanted to invite all the MLAs at one location.
The BJP staged protests against the Aam Aadmi Party government in the national capital, accusing Chief Minister Kejriwal of trying to distract people from the alleged liquor scam.
हमें कोई जरूरत नहीं आपकी सरकार तोड़ने की, हम लोग प्रॉमिस टू डिलीवरी की बात करते हैं। ये ऑपरेशन लोटस है जो पूरे देश में चल रहा है और पूरे देश ने देखा है कि 2014 से आज तक सरकार ने कैसे काम किया।
Operation Lotus, a phrase that has two definitions. The BJP claims it is the model of fulfillment of promises across the country, while the Aam Aadmi Party says it's the model of bringing down state governments. For now, the Aam Aadmi Party is comforted by their MLA's reassurance at the meeting, but the fear and insecurity of MLAs being poached still persists. In New Delhi, with camera person Ashwini Mehra, Priyanshi Sharma for NDTV.
Telangana BJP MLA T. Raja Singh was arrested again today, this time under the stringent Preventive Detention Act, hours after he released a video about the communal atmosphere despite an embargo by the courts. He got bail just yesterday evening after he was arrested in the morning in a hate speech case.
Huge convoy of police vehicles to take controversial Telangana legislator T. Raja Singh to Cherlapalli jail. This after the Hyderabad police invoked provisions of the stringent Preventive Detention Act against the now suspended BJP MLA, who the police says has been habitually delivering provocative inflammatory speeches, driving a wedge between communities leading to public disorder. On Tuesday morning, Raja Singh was arrested after he had put out a video with derogatory remarks allegedly about Prophet Muhammad. By evening, the court, however, ordered his release, saying the police had failed to issue a mandatory notice before arresting him. From Monday onwards, Hyderabad has seen protests in the old city areas demanding action against Raja Singh.
आज जो तेलंगाना का जो वातावरण खराब हुआ उसका कारण राजा सिंह नहीं, मुख्यमंत्री का बेटा केटीआर और तेलंगाना राज्य का होम मिनिस्टर महमूद अली है।
Before his arrest, Raja Singh put out a video alleging that it is not him, but Telangana ministers K.T. Ramarao and Mahmood Ali, who should be blamed for the communally volatile situation in Hyderabad for allegedly allowing Munawar Farooqi's comedy show that he says insulted Hindu gods. In Hyderabad, with camera person Nagaraju, Uma Sudhir, NDTV.
Well, elections for the Congress president posts have been delayed yet again. The new Congress president was supposed to be in place by the 21st of September. Now the Congress is saying this will happen by Diwali, that's the 24th of October. Is it because there's no consensus for who should lead the party? That seems to be the case, though officially the party says that it has to do with an inauspicious period. Before that, we know Rahul Gandhi is reluctant to take the top job. He's refused it. Ashok Gehlot, the Rajasthan chief minister, has emerged as a front runner, but there could be a possible challenger thrown up by a group of 23 in the party, the so-called rebels who've been demanding reform and change. So at the moment, things looking pretty messy still for the grand old party. A murder case has been registered in the death of BJP leader and actor Sonali Phogat, who was found dead in Goa earlier this week. Her brother has claimed that she was murdered by two of her associates who were travelling with her to Goa, that's her personal assistant and a friend, who've now been called for questioning by the police. The post-mortem importantly shows that Sonali suffered multiple blunt force injuries to her body. Her family had questioned initial reports that she had died of a heart attack. Let's listen in to what the police had to say.
मर्डर का मुकदमा 302/34 FIR नंबर है इसका 134/22 पुलिस स्टेशन अंजना में दर्ज करके तफ्तीश शुरू कर दी गई है। हमारे जो फीमेल ऑफिसर्स ने बॉडी का फिजिकल एग्जामिनेशन किया है उसमें कोई शार्प एज्ड इंजरी नहीं है।
My colleague Mohammed Ghazali now joining us for more on that big story. Ghazali, what more do we know at this point?
See, as of now, murder case has been registered against two of his associates who accompanied her to Goa, and also some of the test reports are still awaited, like viscera report and tissue report as well, because in that post-mortem report or the PM report it mentions that the reason of the death can be ascertained by the investigating officer, and that can only be ascertained after all the reports come. Now the body of Sonali Phogat will be arriving late in the night at Delhi airport. From there it will be taken to Hisar at her residence, but the Chief Minister of Haryana, Mr. Manohar Lal Khattar, was asked today in a press briefing that the family has been demanding for a CBI probe. So will Haryana CM speak to the Goa CM for this? So for this he said that till the family gives him a written submission or a written request, only then he will approach or proceed for that. So as of now the family still demands that a CBI probe should be launched into the murder case, because since day one they have been saying that her death, they were suspecting that it was a murder, but initially the Goa police was not relenting to register an FIR, and only after this PM report the family agreed that first you register an FIR, then only they will go for the for the post-mortem examination, and after which her two associates have been booked now. So more information will only come once all the test reports are released from the Goa government.
Very quickly, any word on what the possible motive could be? I mean, these were people she knew, her personal assistant as well.
Yeah, the same personal assistant, one of the accused, has also been accused of raping her 3 years ago and filming the act and later blackmailing her. And many such information has now come out from her Hisar residence, that just hours after her death information was received by the family, some unidentified people came in the house and stole all the electronic gadgets from her residence. So it looks very suspicious that what could be the real motive of the murder. The Goa police has registered the case as of now, but the families is still saying that once the case either should be transferred to Delhi or should be given to the CBI.
All right, Ghazali, let's see how that plays out. Thanks very much for joining us. Meanwhile, in a first, India has actually voted against Russia at the UN Security Council in a procedural vote on Ukraine. India voted with 12 UN member countries against Russia. Russia was objecting to the Ukrainian president speaking by a video link to the Security Council, but India voted in favor of Zelensky speaking by video link. China abstained. And look at the markets now, where the markets declined by 0.5% today, snapping a two-day winning streak. The Sensex fell 310 points, the Nifty 82 points. Oil prices are continuing to rise on possible OPEC supply cuts, and the Brent crude was also trading above $101 a barrel today. Investors are also looking at commentary that comes out of the Jackson Hole Economic Symposium. And finally tonight, Vikrant, the largest ever warship to have ever been built in India, will be commissioned into the Navy on the 2nd of September. It has been designed completely by the Indian Navy and built by the Cochin Shipyard Limited. My colleague Vishnu Shom has more.
In 8 days, this warship, Vikrant, will become INS Vikrant once she's commissioned into the Indian Navy. Decades in planning and several years being built here in Kochi are now over. In just a few months, Vikrant embarks her complement of Russian-built MiG-29K fighters as full-fledged aviation trials begin. Vikrant's induction couldn't come a day sooner. China is building its presence in the Indian Ocean region with bases and warships.
The aircraft carrier can be utilized for power projection, for ensuring maritime security in the Indian Ocean region, and can provide for credible deterrence.
This is the man who commands Vikrant, Commodore Vidyadhar Harke. It's his job to ensure that Vikrant is fit to fight a war.
The crew is very, very close to my heart. They are the best that could be brought in at this place. And if you recollect, from the first sailing itself, majority of systems were operated by my crew. And over a period of time, they have slowly got mastered it. One part is operating it, other part is maintaining it, and the third part is to undertake defect rectification.
Built at a cost of nearly 20,000 crores, Vikrant will have 1,500 officers and sailors on board. The carrier will embark 30 aircraft, including helicopters and fighter jets. Vikrant displaces 43,000 tons and is the largest warship built in India.
The Indian Navy has made it clear that it needs 3 aircraft carriers, one for each coast and one which would be in maintenance. Therefore, 2 operational warships at any one time. But a warship like Vikrant costs 20,000 crores. And for the government to actually be able to raise those funds would be very much a leap of faith. But the Navy is absolutely clear. They need 3 aircraft carriers which are available to them. In Kochi, with Rupin Pawa, Vishnu Shom for NDTV.